Right there. Transferring main energizers to FFmpeg output. Computating backup After Dark stream. Activating jblive.fm. Primary backups online. And with that, we have ourselves a live stream. Linux Unplugged, episode 190, coming up soon. Oh! Here we go. The live stream is alive! So, quite a bit going on this week. This is my last week with you guys for a little bit. I will not be here next week. And probably the week after, I'm not sure. Probably though. Uh-oh. So, I got a few little buttons to press. See, I gotta, oh, jeez. Yeah. Yeah, uh-oh. Push the Hypnotoad button. Of course I do, Ken Secco. Of course I do. Of course I do.
Brain is gone.
Oh! Is anybody in the chat room near a Skype machine right now that would be willing to call me in a few minutes? Want to test remote host capabilities. Up, bop, 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 up. Oh! Anybody want to call me? Yeah, I don't imagine most people do. Webcam. It looks like junk. It's a little better. That's a little better. Whoa. Whoa. It's got a lot darker in here right now. There, well. Alright, so I want to test to see if the Mumble Room can hear a Skype caller. Let's do this. So, WW, you can reply in IRC if it's easy for you, but you can, where you're at right now, WW, you can hear me or no? Can you hear me up in staging? It's not for me, guys. It's because somebody else might be calling on Skype. You don't need to tell me about Ring. I'm aware there's other things besides Skype. We go through this all the time. Yeah, so is that a no, WW? Okay, I guess that's a no. Okay. Will you do me a favor and come down into on air for me for just a sec so we can test to see if you can hear Skype Lady? And maybe talk to her too. I'm gonna call Skype testing service. Basically, is what I'm doing. And I want to see if the Mumble Room can hear her. Hello. Okay. So I'm gonna call her right now. You know, in fact, I'll pause the music too for full effect. So I'm gonna call her right now, and basically just let me know if you hear her.
No problem.
In there. Okay, here we go.
Hello. Welcome to Skype call testing service. After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Do you hear her so far?
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Now why don't you say something to the Skype lady? See if she hears you.
Hello, Skype lady. Can you hear me? Are you available this weekend? Let me know.
Whoa, you're moving on my girl, dude. That's my girl. That's my girl you're talking about right there. Wow. Wow, yeah. What? Hello? Hello? Okay.
I do.
Now why don't you say something to the Skype lady? See if she hears you. God, it sounds like crap though.
Hello, Skype lady. Can you hear me?
Jeez, you sound better than I do to the Skype lady. All right, good. So now if I do get a guest host and they end up having to use Skype, you'll be able to talk to them and they'll be able to talk to you. So that should work out. That should work out well.
Yeah, it did sound really... it sounded kind of like in a can, kind of...
Well, I really hate the way the new Skype for Linux beta sounds right now. I really think it sounds bad compared to old Skype. I really think it sounds bad.
A lot of Skype's decisions lately have not been for the best.
Yeah, it's really too bad. All right, well, thank you. So there we go. So yeah, if I end up getting a guest host and that guest host has to use Skype, then at least we know the Mumble Room could still be part of the conversation. So that's awesome. All right. Yeah, it doesn't sound very good, I know. See Mr. Popey up there.
I secretly use Arch Linux.
Yeah, Skype 4.3 seems to be the better. I can install them both, right? Let's do a little back-to-back. Actually, why don't we do a little AB on that? You want to do a little AB? Let me see if I think I can install both. What's the old? Is the old one just called Skype? Let me see. Ghetto Skype? That's funny. There's a package for Arch called Ghetto Skype, which is like web Skype packaged up. Yep, it's just called straight up Skype. All right, so let's see if they conflict. Looks like I can install both. I just have to install some 32-bit libraries. All right, so let's call Skype Lady and see how she sounds under the old version of Skype. No other things have changed. Well, thanks, Josh. Okay. Oh man, I hit slash instead of Y. Dang it. All right, install already. I want to test this. Oh yeah, gotta get that lib32qt4 installed. Gotta get that installed first. Okay. Now I got lib32qt installed. So now let's open up old Skype here. Yes, I agree to your terms of use. It's already annoying me, guys. And nothing happened. This is really feeling old. Nothing happened. I accepted the terms of service, and now it just disappeared. This is the game we're playing, huh? Skype. What the hell? I agree. Oh, okay, now it's working. Well, there you go. I guess it just needed me to do it twice. Just log in to Skype now. And we'll do a little sound test. First I'll do old Skype, and then I will call Skype lady on new Skype. Dude, Skype just paused my music. What the? It's fine, I should probably do that anyways. Man, I like this old UI. It's nice and tight. I actually really prefer this UI, it's funny. It feels faster too. Okay, we're calling. Here we go.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service.
That sounds better to my ears already.
After the beep, please record a message.
Yikes, that sounds better to me.
Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Hello, Skype call testing lady. This here is Chris, and I'm testing you on Skype 4.3, the classic old QT Skype, the old tried and true, which I think has a better sounding audio codec. Oh, God, the notifications. Hello, Skype call testing lady. This here is Chris, and I'm testing you on Skype. Still sounds overdriven, though. Let's work on that. Let's do that next. So let's bring down this a little bit. Why is it so overdriven? Why? Why? Oh, my God, the notifications are the worst thing about Skype. All right, let's try it one more time, now with a little less audio.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service.
She sounds so much better, it's ridiculous.
After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Hello, Skype call testing lady. I'm pulling down my audio a little bit to you, and I've also adjusted my system settings a little bit to see how it sounds. I'm hoping it sounds better. I hope it sounds better. So you play, what I want you to do now, if you could, hello? Hello, Skype call testing lady. I'm pulling down my audio a little bit to you, and I've also adjusted my system settings a little bit to see how it sounds. I'm hoping it sounds better. I hope it sounds better. That's not too bad. All right, so now let's go over to new Skype. Let's go to new Skype. Well, I'll give new Skype this, a lot less annoying notifications. Good job, guys. Also, new Skype, dark theme. It's kind of cool, too. All right, so now we call Echo123, a.k.a. Skype test lady, on the new Skype.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service.
See, to my ears, that's noticeably more compressed.
Please record a message.
It sounds much worse to me.
Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Sounds more narrow. So to my ears, this sounds... Oh, there's a hiss, too. Do you hear that hiss? To my ears, this sounds worse. It sounds like there's more compression. The audio codec sounds like it's narrower in sound quality. And then there's this strange playback hiss that the other Skype call doesn't exhibit. So I would imagine...
Sounds like YouTube 144p,
to my ears, this sounds... Yeah, there's a hiss, too. More compressed. Do you hear that hiss? To my ears, this sounds worse. It sounds like there's more compression. The audio codec sounds like it's narrower. Yeah, that's way worse. To my ears, the new WebRTC stuff does not sound as good as the old busted Skype that's full of vulnerabilities that's never getting updated again. Sure, that's kind of... I think I'm going to recommend that Wes use old Skype next week, though. I think that's sort of what we have to do, because if you're going to have a remote host, I don't want them sounding worse. I want them to sound as good as possible. So how do I use new Skype then? I think it's a real problem. It's a real downgrade. And I don't understand why people aren't more on Microsoft's arse about it. Doesn't it seem like something people would be more on their arse about? I don't know. Seems like something people would be more upset about. Nobody talks about it. Hey, but it's WebRTC. It's looking for, boy, it's just full of problems, though. Old Skype is really kind of the worst. It's like a bag of hurt, as someone once said. We won't say who, but someone once said that. Yeah, it may be Rekai. Maybe nobody's using it. That could be a good theory. I like that theory, actually. This probably explains it pretty easily.
Greetings and salutations. Thanks for...
Hey, friend of the show, Joe Collins. Hello, Joe. That was a little drive-by video. What was that? Learning Linux file system, explained by Joe Collins. There you go. Yeah, in Movable Force, the audio stream goes through an extra layer of encoding, which takes longer. It also means it's a little more robust in terms of what it can handle connection-wise. So it's pretty optimal for mobile. RTMP is probably the fastest. RTMP would be the most current, I would imagine, because that's coming right off of Scale Engine servers. No extra processing. Or probably HLS would be around the same. So if you want the shortest delay, you have to use RTMP, but then you need to probably play with your buffer settings because it can be a little bumpy for just about anybody's connection if you don't have super low latency. So anybody have a classic Linux video? I was just looking at classic Linux videos. I want something from like years ago. Let's go look at old. Okay, you know what? Why don't I go look at an old Linux action show from like 2000? Let's go 2015. Oh, this should be interesting.
This episode of the.
So where do I go to my? Okay. Here we go. You know, people complain about the sponsors in LAS, but I don't get it because that's how I know where to go in the show. Like, I can skip ahead by seeing what sponsored is, and then I go right to the end and I start playing.
I guess I just
Works for me every time.
Like the rapid adoption of System D. I thought it would still be a technology we'd be debating. I figured we'd have a 5-year transition period between its systems.
Something we're going back and forth on, talking about. You know, we really need to get in there. And,
as hot and heated as the System D debates were, like, here we are at the end of 2014, and there has been a crap ton of progress. Debian will switch. Ubuntu will switch. A bunch of distros are already shipping. SUSE has been shipping now for a while with System D. Arch, Fedora, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 shipped with System D. It was truly the year of System D. Kind of amazingly so. What we witnessed in 2014 was Linux's ability to pivot on a fundamental technology within the time span of a year.
I know, it's wild.
That is so actually
quick. I mean, with the exception of a few holdouts and various, whatnots. So.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in terms of, like, everybody who's got some skin in the game has made the decision, and it happened really, like, looking back at it, in a compressed amount of time. It was very painful while the process happened, but I actually think
it's much like a flower coming through concrete.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like. Boom! It kind of worked. It just kind of said, "Here I am, everybody."
Yeah. And it felt like it was every single inch at the time.
Yeah.
And now looking back at it, it feels like a flash.
Well, and the interesting piece of it is that I don't care where your opinion falls on the matter. It's here, kids. Get over it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the other thing. Yeah.
Sorry.
So now let's talk about the other thing that's obviously here. Nobody's going to dispute this. Containers and Docker.
Oh, no
right?
kidding, right?
Right. Yeah. 2014,
that's pretty good.
huge year for containerization.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I don't think 2015 is going to be the year.
No.
Throughout 2014,
maybe.
we've talked about, like,
2016
new ways
definitely
to
was.
distribute software on Linux. And
It's funny looking back at my old gear, like a different microphone, different headphones, totally different gear. Hello, Mr. Wimpy. Good to see you.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Testing. Good.
Yes, you sound
You're
fine.
good to go.
You sound fine.
Good.
You know,
How are you?
good. Pretty good.
How are you feeling after the weekend?
It's a bit of a bumpy road, but overall not too bad.
I've only read a little bit of the feedback, but it all seems good so far.
Yeah,
certainly
yeah.
anecdotally, the conversations running in various, groups around the place are all saying good things.
Yeah, I think for the most part.
Except for one tech journalist who was a tool, but other than that, it's fine.
That is sort of, it has been interesting to see some people come out of the woodwork to try to take advantage of the situation. It just sort of feels bad, but it is what it is.
Advantage of the situation, yes.
But, all that said, for the most part, my thoughts have shifted from, oh man, what about last, to now, oh man, I'm leaving on Thursday. So that just feels like it came out of nowhere because I spent so much time these last couple of weeks thinking and working on Linux Action Show that I didn't properly schedule all of my pre-recordings and everything like that. So it's going to be a little by the seat of my pants kind of style.
Ooh. Oh well.
Yeah.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. We're going to have a little fun today. We're going to get to spend some of Wes's money. So I'm glad you're here because I think the XPS
Some
15
of whose
maker,
money?
Wes. We're going to spend.
Oh, excellent. I love spending other people's
Yeah, me
money.
too.
It's my favourite thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, me too. And he's in the market. He's got like one of the original XPSs, the 13s, one of the original Sputnik style. So he's in the market for a new machine.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
there's, first we got to find out what he needs and what he wants from a computer.
Yeah.
And find out even,
Yeah.
I think, if a laptop's what he wants, too. Because I think he wants something with some horsepower.
Yeah, did you see the Entroware
did.
have released their updated Kratos? Yeah.
Is that how you say it? It looks nice.
I think so. I think it's Kratos, yeah. Yeah, that was a good machine. That was a machine I nearly got last time round, but I went all out and got the Athena instead. But that's a nice machine. That's got a nice balance of, power and portability, I think.
Yeah.
It's sort of there with the XPS 15 in terms of,
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll save it for the show.
Yeah. I think we'll mention it in the show. I have a little link to it in the show notes. Oh, and Dell is offering $200 off XPS 13 configs right now. Holy smokes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I wonder if that applies to corporate things as well, like if it stacks.
Oh, God. You know
Because
what?
I get a pretty nice corporate discount on Lenovo stuff, Dell and Lenovo stuff.
You know what's surprising? Well, I guess it's not that surprising, but you know what is consistent about the XPS 13 is when I show it to people, they always remark on the edge-to-edge screen. They always remark on that.
Yes, I know. I love that vendors are doing that now. Like even Lenovo is doing that with the X1 Carbon.
The
It has an
Infinity
edge-to-edge
display. Yeah.
Yeah. Lenovo has their own moniker gimmick thing to call it. But yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Evening, William.
I think so.
Hey.
Hey.
So I
It's like the pawns over there.
I really enjoyed your roundup on Bcash FS last week, William. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I did too.
Great.
Yeah, I'm a backer of
We
the
will keep
Bcash
bringing more. We will
FS
have to do
Patreon.
more of that as things change. It looks like it's kind of stagnated in the past week, but I mean, things are always happening. Fixes are happening.
I didn't realize I wasn't a
Encryption
patron.
works now. He fixed the bug that caused that to be broken. but-
After our chat, I went and signed. I thought I already was a patron after our chat, though I double checked, and I wasn't. So I signed up.
Yeah, but although I'm a patron because I really want to see it happen, the
Yeah.
problem is that I haven't got enough time to actually sit down and routinely keep track of
it
the
sucks
changes. So
yeah, you have to pull in the changes and merge it with stable, and that doesn't always work because he's changed. Actually, he moved the tree to a separate tree, so merges are actually easy now. It used to be just an overwrite of the Bcash directory in the block device area, and so you would have merge conflicts whenever they changed Bcash upstream to fix something, and he did all of his changes. But now it's actually living in a separate FS Bcash FS directory, so it's easy to merge with upstream for the most part.
because the other thing that sort of piqued my interest in it again is that I've used Bcash itself in the past as
And yeah,
sort
it
of
keeps all that functionality, which is great. So you can still do cache tiering and stuff.
Well, I'm wondering if he's going to take is it Intel Optron or Optrain or something?
Yeah, Optane. Yeah, it's cool because they just announced that new consumer device.
Yeah.
The downside with it is that it has so few dies that you get really limited write bandwidth. So it only writes at like 300 megabytes a second on the top end of its write speed.
Yeah,
but read caching is great.
Yeah.
I don't know if Bcash has policies to do a write through but then hit the cache layer on reads. I don't think that's a type of policy. Usually the way it works is the cache device isn't just caching, like it doesn't maintain a separate copy. It actually holds one part of the data. So the most used data lives on the cache tier, and the data that is sort of less used lives on the, larger end tier, your second tier. But the data doesn't live on both. It actually gets moved.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a proper
the write speed
two.
of the Optane is a little limiting in that regard, but it would be very cool as like an OS boot drive or something, or if you have a very read heavy workload and not too many writes, it'd be fantastic.
I was thinking maybe in slightly bigger sticks because I think I've only seen 32 and 64
Yeah, those are
gig
sort of
at the
targeted
moment.
at consumers, I think. They're cheap, right? They're $77 for the 32 gig one.
Yeah.
When they start doing ones with more dies, like if you bought the PCI Express device, that's the full half height, half length card or whatever they call it, one of those add-on cards, once you get that form factor, you'll get much better write throughput, and it would actually be a great cache tier.
And also
Bcash would be
something that would
fantastic
be
for
good.
that.
Something that would be good to go in servers to complement
absolutely.
Stacks of disks.
I think it's great to have that little gumstick form factor because that'd be a great boot disk for servers just because of the high reliability of that medium and how cheap it is.
Yeah, can you remember
You
when
don't
we used
need
to
a lot of
boot
space.
off
Most
PCMCIA cards like animals?
You have a FreeNAS box.
media
Why would you boot
boxes.
off of SD cards or off of flash drives and you can boot off of something that's actually reliable and performant for read workloads?
Yeah.
And decent for write. So like your logs and stuff would be okay on it.
All right, so I have a backwards question if I can ask. What would be a workload that Bcash? I'm sure there's a few, but what's one that stands out to you as a workload that Bcash FS wouldn't be a good candidate for? Like a file server, like a NAS?
I don't think there really is one.
Shit,
given
that's
the
that's
design
crazy.
goals.
Damn, that's crazy.
The design
The
goals
the
are to
reason
be
I'm
better
most
than most other
interested-
file systems.
The reason I'm most interested in it is because it actually looks like the next generation file system.
This is
that
what
we
I'm
made
feeling
in
like.
Linux.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
This is like where our ButterFS refugees are coming to.
Right, because one of the
I
focus
think
goals
it's going to
is
eclipse
to
B3FS this year.
yeah. One of the goals of the project is to focus on performance, and I think that's huge because all the other next-gen file systems haven't really focused on performance first.
Mm.
I mean, ZFS obviously
Yeah.
focuses on integrity first,
Yep.
and then all the other stuff will follow. But I think the design of Bcachefs will still give you the integrity guarantees, but also focuses on getting performance to a reasonable state.
I like that. So then the question is will OpenSUSE switch from ButterFS to Bcachefs as their default file system? Hey-o.
Nobody cares.
Oh, it's probably true though. It probably because it really hasn't made a difference that they use ButterFS right now. So yeah, that's probably true. But I kind of do wonder which distro. Will one of the like Ubuntu like 1804 maybe like have support for it? Like they slowly introducing ZFS support, or will it be something like a Manjaro or somebody out there just whole class says, well, this is now our default file system. I wonder which way.
It's going to be hard until there's mainline support. No one wants to bring in his huge patch set.
Right.
He's even patching like memory manager.
That
parts of the
definitely
kernel
seems
and
like
stuff
that's
to make things more accessible.
That's the first
so
thing. So how far off is that? Because that seems like the first thing that really would have to happen
as soon as he finalizes his disk format, I think he's going to contribute it upstream. He doesn't want to, push it upstream until the disk format's finalized. Sure. And while he doesn't expect it to change, it very well could by the time snapshots are implemented. So
still excited, still worth backing for. I'm in it for the long game.
The nice thing is he's got a file system migration tool, so you can just go from any file system to Bcache or any version of Bcache.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, you can migrate from one version to the next and not worry about it too much.
Is amazing.
Yeah. No, he's definitely coming at it from a usability perspective. Yeah. I mean, he's worked in enterprisey, software development gigs, so he kind of understands what those type of people need.
Yeah. Seems like he definitely does.
Low latency, decent performance. If you don't have that, it's just not workable.
Everybody give an internet cookie to XMetal. He and I have accidentally wandered into a beehive on YouTube comments this week, and XMetal's gone down with me. I appreciate it. Although I haven't read it, but from the tweets I've gotten, it sounds like XMetal's gone down with the ship with me. So XMetal deserves an internet cookie today.
Whose comments are we talking about?
YouTube. I generally don't reply, but one guy, somebody after last week's episode managed to find a way. He was pissed that we didn't read everybody's feedback in the show. And that's just, there was so much feedback. There was no way we were going to do that. And for some reason, after 2 weeks of not responding, this guy got me. And it just, because it was like this, we did everything we possibly could, and you still found something to complain about is what got me. And so I basically just broke it down. I said, this is why this comment is stupid. And I just gave him a breakdown of why he was wrong. I guess it kind of devolved from there. It's all right, XMetal. It happens. Hello, Joe. Good to see you back, too.
Yeah, temporary audio setup. Hopefully it's sounding okay.
Little low.
You sound like you're in a well, Joe.
Do I? Is that any better?
That's a bit better, a bit flatter.
Yeah. Still sounds a little like you're in a can effect, though.
That would probably be the car that I'm sitting in.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains it.
You need a bit more volume. But
oh my god, I finally got kernel 4.4 at work.
Now, why doesn't Mumble give me local volume control over individual participants? Like, why can't I just turn Joe up? What the hell is that?
I can lean forward a little bit if that helps.
It's not awful, but it still seems a little unusually low.
Low? That's
like it sounds like your level into the microphone is good, but what we're getting into Mumble is low. Hello, Mr. West.
Hello, everybody.
I have don't look, but I have a spoiler of there's my laptop rack. It's kind of big, Wes, but I feel like I'll be able to carry this.
Maybe I just gotta. It's like a workout.
That Pixel, I think when Bitcoin was at its high, if I could have bought that somewhere that had Bitcoin, I might have considered it. because the screen is supposed to be a lot better on the Pixel, and right? I mean,
It's nice,
how's it look in the sun?
Better than what?
So you're
talking about the Chromebook?
Than the Nexus. No, Wes has the Pixel phone, and the issues I have with my previous Android phones is that the screen was pretty hard to see in the sun. My previous ones being Nexuses, so it's not like it's the
6P was pretty good, I thought, but that's obviously what you're using.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have issues with it, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's bad enough where like I'm too afraid to fly my drone with it.
I mean, I will say I got it in like November, so I don't know how much sun I've really seen.
I noticed just with this weather.
Yeah,
though.
no, not bad at all.
Now, what I would do when I was flying the drone is what I had to do because I didn't realize this was a problem until I was up in the air. So first of all, that's how I figured this out. I was like, oh shit, I can't see anything. And so
That's
then I had to
scary.
I had to go find shade, and I was huddling in shade. But then I was behind an object, which then started to degrade my signal. So it wasn't like a win-win. It wasn't.
Or the drone tries to come back to you, and you're like under a tree.
The drone I nearly crashed the drone into power lines because I couldn't see them on the screen. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go get the lightning port fixed on my iPhone.
Are you on Apple FS yet, Chris?
I have not installed the new update yet. I was waiting to see, if people's phones
It's
broke.
funny, because I've had my phone for, since it launched, my FS was like super fragmented or something, and so performance was kind of shit, and when it rewrote it all to the Apple FS, and I guess it rewrote it in order, the performance is great again.
Really?
Yeah, it's like getting a new phone. It's like, ooh, file system performance is good.
Yeah, I wondered, so those Apple image backups, they also, it's a full like disk image, so it's including the disk fragmentation. So if you move
I don't think so.
No? It's
I
a
don't
full,
think that's
it's
how
a
their
right.
backups work. I think it's individual files or something.
Is it?
Because you can limit it to, I don't know what backup you're talking about. Like if you're talking about the one through iTunes.
Yeah, I think, you know what, actually.
That might be a disk image.
I think it's
but
if you
the other
encrypt the
ones-
backup. If you encrypt the backup, it's a full disk image. And if you don't
I don't
encrypt.
know, because you can pick what you want to back up and what you
Right,
don't.
but if
so
you
I don't think it's
encrypt-
doing a full disk image.
If you encrypt it, like brings application data and all of every app stays logged in. And if you don't encrypt, it just backs up the apps, but not.
I thought mine was encrypted and it backed up data kind of individually, but I don't know.
Oh, I'm not sure either. Yeah. Okay. So I was the reason why I ask is because my son has a really old iPad with a ton of great stuff that he set up on it, and I want to move it one day to a different, newer iPad, but I don't want to bring 4 years of. Don't want to bring 4 years of fragmentation. Yeah, it's not bad.
Nice for the kind of intro iPad.
iPad still remains to be a pretty solid
How does it
tablet.
work with this?
That's true.
How does it work with the iOS file system change? Does it copy everything off, change the file system, copy it back on?
I don't. I think it does just make a copy of it and like move stuff over.
I think
like,
it
puts
just
the two file systems side by side and it shuffles data across and resizes as it goes. I don't know what it does if you have a really full partition.
I mean,
like,
it's
mine was
definitely
under half, so it could do a copy side by side.
Can't they just rewrite because you couldn't you just stand it up the new file system in place and then read the old file system's entries and then import that into your table? And I mean, obviously I'm butchering this, but it seems to me like. Seems like you could almost stand it right up next to HFS Plus and then just migrate over.
If I had to guess what they did, they probably created like a sparse file and just created the Apple FS partition in the sparse file and then filled it up, moved data from HFS Plus into the sparse file so they only had one file in the HFS Plus file system and then rewrote that over top.
This is how you know the Apple press really sucks, because this is like one of the most interesting things to happen to Apple devices in years.
It's not even in the changelog. And what's funny is when you do the update takes like 30 minutes because it's rewriting your whole file system. And there are multiple like boot prompts and progress bars and stuff that go across the screen.
Maybe I should try it. I'm going to try it right now.
You should try it. It's good. It worked for me. Didn't break my phone. I haven't heard any reports of it breaking phones, so.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was waiting for. I was kind of waiting to see if people started freaking the F out. I mean, it seems pretty crazy to just, on a point release, update your entire file system.
That's so weird. You'd think it would be a new phone. Like, they wouldn't even bother with the old phones to, migrate to Apple FS.
It must be that they
but
just...
I guess they really want to get rid of HFS.
Yeah, that's got to be what it is.
Screwing them over. If
It
they're gonna
feels
do it on
so
a point
good.
release.
Yeah, they must have a clear and present issue that they're trying to resolve, and they got to get people off this heaping pile as fast as possible.
Palazzo. I don't know if anyone's even like reverse engineered the format of APFS yet. I could be wrong. I'm sure there are people working on it.
There is some docs out there
I
from
don't-
Apple, but yeah. No copy on write. I don't think it has.
It's not like you're going to be able to read the iPhone's file system anyway, because how do you even go about hooking that device up to a Linux system?
Yeah, the best you get is like just the MTP type transfer stuff where you can see some folders.
You're relying on the iPhone to do all that stuff anyway.
Yeah. Back in my day, you get access to the file system. I don't know if I did this. Let me do that real quick.
How's my level doing now then?
Same, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they could give you access to the file system, but you're never going to get access to the block device unencrypted.
Why doesn't it just let me turn him up a little bit? That's what I want.
Yeah, that would be.
What, Mumble?
Yeah, why can't I just?
You can.
How do I?
If you have a new version, if you have like 1.3 snapshot, you can do local volume adjustment.
Oh, jeez. Well, I have
and then you can slide it up.
I have 1.217.
Yeah, you should be getting that 1.3. It's so much better.
That's all
It's
right.
QT5, not QT4.
Well, Joe, Rikai will level out all of this to a degree. The only issue is it all goes into a stereo file, so that's what's so awesome about it. If I
Right.
could break Mumble out into its own channel,
That would be
game changer for
beautiful,
this show.
yeah.
Yeah, but we'd have
Now
to.
I've cranked it up a little bit in PAVU control.
You got some distortion on the mic, but the volume on our end hasn't changed.
Yeah.
That's what I say. It's like your mic.
Confirming what you're saying,
Your mic
I guess.
volume into the machine seems pretty good, but it's like the level going into the application seems low.
Yeah.
Well, that's Pulse Audio for you.
Sounds a little better right there. You just sound slightly better.
Okay, I haven't really done much now. I've put it back to where it was.
Yeah.
I guess you're just not distorting now. Yeah.
I mean, we could just talk really quiet.
I'm just waiting for a month from now, all the iPhone users complaining about their file system got corrupted or something.
Oh, now you
It's
tell
gonna be
me.
a thing.
I got-
No, I'm just waiting for this to happen. I don't know how much they've actually tested
I have
this. Like,
20
I'm
seconds
skeptical
left.
that they built this whole thing
I have 20 seconds left.
and it works fine.
Oh God, you're.
It's okay. I'm already a pioneer. I'm already there. I'm screwed too.
Jeez.
Because William has courage, right?
Yeah, courage.
It's nice to get that file system refresh and get that performance boost halfway
Yeah,
through the life cycle of your phone.
I'm glad I don't have to.
It is a pretty nice update. They should just do that every time they do one of these major point releases, is rewrite your file system in order so it feels fast again.
Now, I wonder how long until they actually do the Mac, though. Wonder how long.
Yeah, I don't know. That's more interesting because those drives can be potentially read on other devices.
Yeah,
Although I guess
and-
they're being soldered in now, so maybe not.
Well, there's just
But-
going to be so many different configurations, like the iOS devices. At least there's some solid configurations. We have anything in the pre-show before we get rolling? Anybody got anything for the? Nothing. Nobody has a topic. I feel like someone quick would be fun.
What kind of topic?
I don't know. I don't know.
I had some fun
Maybe-
with IP tables this week.
You did?
Yeah, not a ton, but
Wes's adventures with IP tables. What happened?
Ooh.
no, I just had a machine running some old monitoring software. I need to it's just terrible. I'd love to kill it, but it's the thing receiving SNMP traps right now. But it doesn't use. I mean, it like wraps net SNMP, but it doesn't use SNMP trapd. So it wasn't that. I couldn't just have it stop listening, or I couldn't set up my own proxy without having to take it down for some times. But I was able to use IP tables with the --T, which I'd never used before, and then that sends it over to a secondary host, which then does a pre-routing rule on it to change where it's addressed to, which then sends it off to my actual host where I'm going to capture all of these, so I know, hey, what's actually hitting this machine. But I was really pleased. It was like 2 commands. It was really easy.
Yeah.
I didn't have to.
Oh, I know it.
No
Wes,
downtime.
Wes, you had me at IP tables.
Yeah, that's right.
I used to use IP tables to take traffic coming into a host that was, trying to get out to the internet to go to like port 80 or 443 and route it to a proxy server. Just transparently flip it to the proxy squid instance.
Nice,
yeah. And oh, you want to know something gross before we start?
Oh,
No.
yeah.
Yeah, something gross. You guys,
Let's hear it.
Just a little warm up. So I'm leaving for Texas on Thursday.
Yes.
And I think we're gonna have a guest. I checked Skype, by the way.
Okay.
I got classic Skype installed because I did
Ooh.
an A/B test to WebRTC Skype, and classic Skype sounds better. And I made sure they can hear the Mumble Room can hear them. So if somebody calls in as a guest host next week, you'll have them on this computer, and you probably want to just sit here, and they'll be able to hear everybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I'm leaving Thursday, but my black tank is full today. This morning, we filled our black tank, so we no longer have a functioning toilet in Lady Tubes. I've got water. I finally got working water, but I got no toilet right now.
Yikes.
Ah! And the thing is, do I pack up the whole rig and get everything put up a day early just to go flush, or do I figure
Seems
something
like you
out for
have
one
to.
night? I'm only there at night because I work all day,
I guess that's
so I only
true.
have to
I
go
guess
home at
that's
night.
True.
Yeah. So now it's like
Shit in a bucket, man.
I kind of feel like I'm Kramer going towards empty. Like I just want to keep going
Yes, there
and see
you
if I
go.
can make it till Thursday.
I suppose that's true. I mean, worst thing, you have like a studio camp out.
I got to run down to the studio to take a
Yeah.
leak. Now, I think the barn that we're parked next to has a bathroom too, but
Oh, nice.
it's all locked up. It's all locked up, Wes. So
Or just make sure you control what you intake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I figure is like, I'm going to cut off all fluids by 7 p.m. tonight.
Yeah.
So that way I can make it till the morning. And I get down here in the morning to work on Unfilter. And yeah. All right. Updates verifying. Okay. I think we're going to start.
By the end of this show, Chris
another,
may
like-
or may not have a phone.
Yeah.
You've got another good 30 minutes before your phone is done.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Let's see. It's 190. Chat room, please bang suggest. It is the Unplugged show, and it begins in a 3. In a 2. That is so gross. It's so inappropriate. It's just the worst. It's just the worst. Now I realize that I want to also change where I play the music from. So I'm going to kill time while I look for the music.
Don't look now. Killing time. Gotta have the right music.
Yeah, because I have the soundboard turned down because there's a buzz, so I want to play it from another computer. So there we go. All right. Thank you, Kiefer. You may leave now. Bus 1? What? What? What are you talking about, Nick? What? Bus 1? What?
You know the Bus 1 project?
Oh, is that about a pre-show talk? Well, we already pre-showed. We're moving on to the show now. But you can, if you remember, bring it up in the post-show. Hey, now it can be a post-show topic. Okay, here we go. It's the Unplugged show. It begins right. Oh, yeah. Oh, there goes the upgrade. Okay, so it's starting right now at 2:06, right on the nose. So everybody will see. 2:06, chat. Remember that. Okay, in 3. In 2. This is Linux Unplugged, episode 190 for March 28th, 2017. Welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that's converting file systems in real time. My name is Chris.
My name is Wes.
Hello, Wes.
Keep your hands off my file system.
I know, I don't jest. There's actually a few file system things coming up today. But first, we're going to get through some updates. There's a project that's been on the back of my mind for months that we haven't talked about. Plus,
saving it.
A big, huge change up with FreeNAS this week. We're going to talk about that. Going to kind of fit in with some other topics that we have coming up down the road. Just some overall stuff. Really kind of like major changes for a few projects we talked about. Then, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm very excited about this. Towards the end of the show, we're going to spend a little bit of Wes's money.
Whoa.
Yeah, Wes has entered that
Should've
phase.
left my wallet at home.
You know, we've all been there. Like, I think it's time for a new laptop.
Yeah.
I got to get a new computer. And this can be like a multi-month search. Sometimes it can be a couple of days search, depending on your situation. And so this week, Wes is on the search for the ultimate Linux machine. We're going to find out what his requirements are. And then our panel of Linux experts, the Virtual Lug, will chime in with their ideas on what might be a fitting machine. And there happens to be some new Linux hardware releases coming very soon that may fit. We'll talk about those. We have all of that to go through, plus kind of an out there futurist kind of idea about how maybe we could sort of take Linux and mobile Linux to the next level, and some really like taking some low-end machines and just giving them huge upgrades. So we'll talk about that in a little while too. So got some good hardware stuff, got some good file server stuff coming up, got some huge project changes that people need to know about, like stuff that's like relevant to all of our interests. So I think it's gonna be a great show, Wes. So let's get started by bringing in that Virtual Lug. Hello, time appropriate greetings, Virtual Lug. Hello, guys.
Greetings.
Hi. Whoa. Hello. Holy, that was a
That wakes
moment.
you up.
That was a moment right there. So Wes, if we're going to talk about hardware that might work for you this week, we got to start with the Zero Terminal, a tiny Linux PC that you can build using a Raspberry Pi and a smartphone keyboard.
Look at how cute that is.
It is super cute. Called the Zero Terminal. It's an all-in-one handheld computer that features a 3.5-inch screen, and it gives you remarkable portability with a Raspberry Pi. Yeah, you got HDMI out. You can put a big old battery in there to run this thing.
Does it have a tab key? That's what I want to know.
Does it have an escape key? That's what you
that
really
too.
want. Yeah. And it's got a video. That's always a win. Yeah, you see that?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
ear
like,
massage.
Yeah.
This is the third iteration of the handheld Linux terminal project I've been working on for a while now. Like the others, the aim is to create a small, all-in-one computer that is both portable and usable. One of the main problems with the last version was that it took way too long to make, and some of the finishing wasn't as good as it could have been.
I like this idea, actually. Node plans to release the files for the 3D printed parts soon, so that's kind of neat. But maybe that's not really your style, Wes. Maybe you want something more laptop style. So keep this in mind. I also saw this week there is like a laptop like concept where you could snap something like that in. So you take a standard laptop, maybe in this case the Acer TravelMate.
Yeah, sure.
And you cut it open, and so you're getting it off eBay, and you install a Raspberry Pi into this thing and take advantage of its keyboard, its screen. You can use HDMI to drive the display. You can hook up keyboards and stuff like that, and you put a Raspberry Pi inside a laptop.
Hey, okay.
I'm just putting these out here as options. I know you're in the
definitely.
market.
That first one, that might be.
That actually could
I
be
wonder
kinda
what
cool,
the price
couldn't it?
point would be.
You like that because you can put it in the pocket?
Yeah, you could put it in the pocket.
I do like that idea too. There's a few of these out there right now. There's one we covered on last recently too, that's trying to build that in your pocket computer. That one was a more straight up like we were going to run Ubuntu, and I can't remember if it was ARM or not.
Yeah.
A GPD Pocket's pretty cool.
Yeah, GPD, that's what it was. Do you remember, William? Is that ARM?
It's just an Atom. No, it's just like one of those cheap low-end Atoms.
Yeah.
It's like 5 watts or something. It's
Okay.
meant for like tablets and phones.
So the GPD is Atom and the Gemini is ARM.
And these are all kicking around right now?
They're both being crowdfunded at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah, the
GPD is like really funded, like 2.5 million raised.
1,200% over their goal. Yeah. And what was the other one?
I've backed both of these.
You have Wimpy, really?
Nice.
All right, so wait, okay,
Worries
so
me that it's been so funded, man. Because at what point does it become a liability? You know, like how can they fulfill all those orders? You know, they were expecting to fulfill a few thousand. Now they've got to fill a few tens of thousand. And that's just a logistical nightmare. So that's what's kind of put me off the GPD.
So here's
otherwise it looks awesome.
So that's a great point, Joan. So here's what I want to do because we have a unique opportunity. Todd from Purism is joining us right now. So I want to get to him because I think you could be our resident expert on crowdfunding. But first, before we go to Todd, I want to ask Wimpy, are you hedging your bets? You're backing 2 different portable hardware devices? Like you sir are crazy. You must really want this form factor.
I do really want this form factor, and also, as I've said before, just recently, Bitcoin is trending really nicely at the moment. So I've been making a few luxurious purchases.
Investments,
or
Wimpy.
backing.
Investments.
Yeah. I've also bought something old and crusty as well, which I can talk about later if you're interested.
Oh, really? Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Good for you.
But
Good for you.
so I saw the GPD and I thought that looks very interesting, and I'm sort of 50-50 as to whether or not we'll ever see it. Because there's a lot of renders, and maybe they've got loads of backers. Then maybe it'll happen. We'll see what happens. But I'm not sure. It's a little bit almost shady, some of it.
Yeah.
Well, they've
But
got some photos of the actual prototypes now.
Yeah.
A data
I'm
point
hoping.
though, they have shipped a product in the past that's very similar, and it was on Indiegogo, and it did ship. To many backers, so they do at least have successful products in the past that were crowdfunded.
It was when it was first announced that there was lots of renders and not much substance, and it was
I think
just
that's
a
still
little
the case
bit.
on their Indiegogo.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's that one. So that looks interesting. But then the Gemini, again. So this is an organization that really has sort of previous in this area. They've worked in this space a lot before. And I bumped into them at MWC as well, so I had the opportunity to press the flesh. So yeah, I've backed that because I think that will probably arrive later than they're hoping, because they don't have all of the manufacturing pipeline arranged yet, unless they get really good at that, and that all comes together quickly. But I think when that one ships, it will be the better device in terms of the way it's designed and the ergonomics and things.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting to hear how everybody now, I think we've all we've shifted our expectations in what we get from crowdfunding. Here, everybody's like, well, this is kind of rolling the dice here. But Todd, I wanted to toss to you, first of all, welcome to Linux Unplugged. And to Joe's point, when you have phenomenal success, you've almost gone too far. You can't, as a small company, is it difficult to sort of now meet that demand, which could possibly start a whole snowball effect of bad PR, struggling for a new company. What are your reflections on this story, Todd?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. So it obviously can be a challenge. Crowdfunding is, still really relatively new as a way to start a business, and a lot of times, what'll end up happening is, especially if they're just, if we're talking about like a developer who says, "Hey, I just want to do this," or they get together with their buddies and they're like, "Yeah, we think our cost is probably around, X dollars," and what ends up happening is, to operate a business, of course, it's it's X times 4 usually.
That's
so,
for sure. Yeah.
Right. So that's one of the things that tends to underfund, meaning on a per quantity basis. So they might, a lot of projects that that they get overfunded and oversubscribed, which of course is a great problem initially when you think, "Hey, this is awesome. People are really excited what we're doing." But then I think to Wimpy's point was that when you're actually looking at a per cost per item, that you need to start scaling your operations, right? You have to start dealing with, are you managing inventory, right? And the entire operational side of things, which a lot of those types of campaigns don't end up having. So sadly, crowdfunding track record is not as good as we'd all like it to be, because obviously it's such a great way to to get these things off the ground and see projects, and it's sort of a new way to start businesses. Really, what they tend to do is kind of stay in the hobby area, or obviously delivery is. I think I could safely say that 99% of the projects are delivered late, because that's just the nature of the beast, especially when you're dealing with hardware.
Yeah. Yeah, especially it seems too when it's something that's pushing the edge a little bit, where you might have to get manufacturers on board with a new idea or a new way of doing something, or shipping in a way they've never shipped before. It seems like the difficulty gets exponentially tougher. Do you agree with that assessment, Todd?
Yes, I think you're exactly right. And so, like in our case, we actually I've at a previous company used the same exact supply chain, but that just made it where I had the contacts to be able to do things that we were trying to do. But we obviously had a lot of learning curves along the way. Mostly it was around, delivery times or what products were actually available. And obviously, even one of the things, Chris, that you might remember is that we were originally slated to get 4K screens. So we said, yeah, we can do 4K screens because we heard from the supply chain we can do 4K screens. And then that ended up turning into constant delays because the actual source manufacturer, Samsung, was getting bought up by much larger suppliers or much larger buyers.
Right.
And so we kept kind of falling to the back burner. And then at some point we just had to, cut our losses and say, you know what, we're going to have to ship what we can right now. And then basically place another order with a more reliable supply chain. So that supply chain management is an area that is really difficult to manage through. And now we ended up, after because we've grown to the point where we can have a really solid supply chain, and through negotiation, really to some degrees trial and error. But a lot of the new crowdfunded campaigns, that is, I think Wimpy's point is exactly right. When you start to get oversubscribed, then they introduce all sorts of new problems, right? It's not just like a hobby putting this together. They're trying to actually now start to form a business. And if they didn't get their pricing right, it could end up being that they won't be able to actually fund the entire process.
Right. If they don't have experience working with manufacturers, and like to your point, which I don't really think a lot of us think about, if they get to a certain size, now all of a sudden they have to also have experience with managing inventory and tracking support issues and support staff, that if you don't have a past experience standing those groups up and integrating those employees into your business, it's going to be a huge learning curve while you're also trying to ship the product that you just promised everybody.
It's like 0 to medium-sized business in a night.
So I'm glad Wimpy's risking the Bitcoin on it, because I really want to see both of these be successful, because I love the form factor idea.
Totally.
So thanks, Wimpy.
Yep. And if I end up with 2 of these, then one will be for my daughters, so that'll be fun.
That's nice.
Win-win.
That's brilliant. Well, Todd, thanks for being here, and I hope you stick with us. We got a whole bunch of stuff coming up. I just want to give a quick heads up to folks that may be using LastPass. I've been looking at different password managers recently, if that wasn't obvious, and
it's that time again.
And I keep coming back when it comes to mobile integration and stuff like that. I keep preferring LastPass. So this applies to me. I don't know if some of you are out there, but over the weekend, a Google security researcher reported a new client-side vulnerability. So this is in the browser side, which could be potentially dangerous. There is an update now. LastPass is not giving us the details. Maybe those TechSnap guys will keep an eye out for the details on what the actual vulnerability was. But right now, as of yesterday, the word from LastPass is just update, and we'll tell you all the details soon. Or maybe Google actually will, because a lot of times the Google Project Zero blog has that stuff. Speaking of TechSnap, we should mention more often that you can find more of Mr. Wes on the TechSnap program. Was it last week you guys did a deep dive? Or was it the week before?
Yep, last week. Yeah. Deep dive.
Broke from the traditional format and did a deep dive into Bacula, which is such a badass backup system.
That Dan knows very well.
Yes,
so
he does. Yeah, he's a
place.
Bacula guy. And I tell you what, if you've ever been curious about a really rock-solid backup system, it can do bare metal restores, it can do individual file restores, it can really manage a lot of sets of data, Bacula. And check out last week's episode on TechSnap about it, which is an open source. I used to use Bacula.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I used to use it to back up a company that sold antivirus software.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that makes sense. But it works great for something like that.
Yeah, and it was perfect. It really was. So that's a different time. Now I might use it with DigitalOcean. I could picture it. DigitalOcean.com, go over there. In fact, do me a favor. After you sign up, you can get a $10 credit and support the show by applying the promo code DO Unplugged to your account. I like the way that this works, too, because you fund the account.
Yeah.
So this is just one of the funding methods. You can fund it with PayPal or a credit card or probably Pixie Dust, but use the promo code. I'm not sure about that last one. DO Unplugged. One word, you get a $10 credit. You can spin up a Linux rig up on their infrastructure. All SSDs for the storage. Oh! Wes, it makes a difference.
It sure does. You know what also would help with that Bacula thing? Their private networking.
Dude, you mean for like backing up your own droplets and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, because also that's brilliant, A, because then your backup server isn't on the public net, but B, the transfer over the private networking doesn't count towards your total data transfer.
Boom.
That's money right there. That's a good idea. Yeah, check that out. That's one of the many great features of DigitalOcean. Go over there, use our promo code DO Unplugged, and spin up a rig. You can try out Bacula for just a few pennies on the dollar if you want to run it for a few hours. Try out the $5 rig, 2 months for free. It's going to be all SSD, so it's nice and fast. And if you want to back up to DigitalOcean, they have block storage, which you can add up and add up and add up and just keep growing as you need, or even reduce. Or, this is brilliant, didn't realize this until recently, move it to another droplet. Freaking mind blown in the context of backups. Freaking mind blown. And that's just the beginning too. If you're into this kind of stuff, you might also favor their new monitoring system coming soon. It's going to be coming. Little Birdie tells me very soon, and you can sign up for early access when you go over to DigitalOcean.com. Go there, create an account. Big thank you to DigitalOcean. They have a great interface for managing all of this, an API that really works. Hell of a good service at DigitalOcean.com. Use our promo code DO Unplugged, and thanks to them for sponsoring the Unplugged program. Okay, so I want to talk just briefly about file servers. Ooh. I know. Some people's eyes are going to glaze over. But there's one that we don't talk about very much, and I want to give it a little love right now, and that's Rockstore. I've mentioned it once before, but a couple of days ago, I missed it at first. They had a new release, and I think it's worth mentioning because they've put a ton of effort into this. They have now 6 contributors coming together to work on bug fixes and performance improvements. The code quality, is, from what people tell me, has had a big jump in this one. They've had a lot of improvements to their Python backend stack. They are still, and this could be actually, I think, a feature to some of you, all in on ButterFS for the NAS file server file system. So if you're a big fan of ButterFS, which people remain fans, this is a great file server for you potentially. They also seem to offer some commercial products or offerings. I'm not totally familiar
with it.
There's
support available as well. So
yeah.
Maybe it will make you feel a little more secure
with
that ButterFS file system underneath.
So Rockstore just had a new release with which sounds like a lot of nice refinements and improvements, which is pretty much exactly what you want from your NAS.
Yeah.
Now, on the other end, there is FreeNAS Coral, which is also known as FreeNAS 10. This is a massive release, in my opinion, for FreeNAS. It's big. It's sort of, in some ways, a total revisioning of the way the UI works. It's got a brand new slick UI. It's got a rewritten middleware architecture. And the big, and probably one that has gotten the most discussion, changes. They're transitioning from using jails for plugins to using Docker containers.
Say what? Docker
containers.
Isn't that a Linux thing?
Docker containers with full ZFS integration.
Ooh.
And a new command line. And there is some caveats if you're migrating from FreeNAS 9, your plugins that you have installed via jails, they don't get deleted. They just get deactivated. And you'll have to kind of come up with your own solution to maybe converting those into Docker containers. Now, this is interesting because I think this is probably one of the biggest competitors in this sort of rock store sort of Linux,
It's the household name.
Yeah. And FreeNAS is making huge changes, and along those are also some of the changes on the back-end team. Jordan Hubbard, who I've had the pleasure of meeting and watching a presentation on FreeNAS 10 at Meet BSD, who seemed to me a big part of the project. He is moving on. Now, he was the main dev, so he's also the CTO of IX Systems. So that's a big change. Sounds like he's moving into something that he's going to be super passionate about. So he's going into, I think, like he says the nanotech biomedical field.
Ooh.
It's a complete career change. For
Wow,
him.
yeah.
Yeah, which that's got to be nice from time to time.
Totally.
So,
reinvigorate.
Yeah. Good for him, but it's got to be a huge change. Also, back in December, they had another longtime FreeNAS developer who was with FreeNAS since version 8, 7 years. He's also moving on from FreeNAS. So some big changes. Jonathan says that he will not be, or Jordan, not Jonathan, sorry, Jordan Hubbard. Jordan says that, I don't know, Jonathan. Jordan Hubbard says that he won't be a developer anymore, but he'll still be part of the community. So Jordan's still going to be in the, as a user. Right. Says he'll be filing bugs and yelling at those devs. And some people have speculated, well, is this because of all of the breakage from upgrading from FreeNAS 9 to 10? But I don't buy it. I don't buy it because FreeNAS 9.10 is still available for download, still supported. Like, you don't have to upgrade.
Yeah.
And you can roll back your upgrade if it goes wrong. So I don't really buy that, like, Jordan was pushed out, which is what the Reddit conspiracy theory is right now, that FreeNAS 10 was such a failure that it pushed Jordan out, which seems a little over the top.
Yeah. But if he was just pushed out, he'd probably go to a company with similar interests or do something in a similar vein, not change careers completely.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
I think what it was is he worked on this until it was done. And he got, he sort of got some stuff wrapped up, and now
it's a natural time to change.
It's like a nice, smooth transition. Yeah. And all that is my way of saying there is some pushback on this new release, this FreeNAS Coral.
I'm sure there is, yeah.
And I wonder if things like Unraid or another Linux out-of-the-box file server could step up to fill the gap. I don't know. FreeNAS is got a pretty big lead at this point, and like I said, version 9, still perfectly good, still perfectly usable, still perfectly
But you do have to
downloadable.
wonder, I mean, there was even a question to the TechStep program about what's that support cycle going to be, which
I
knowing
was wondering.
IX,
I was
I'm sure
wondering.
it's going to be very reasonable, especially since there's a community around it. So
That's what it seems
I'm not
like.
that worried, but you do have to think like you've been talking about, like, if you're planning the next 5 years, I mean, it would probably still work for that time frame, but 10 years?
What do you think about Docker? I mean, that's
an interesting
Did Docker
choice.
just win right there? Did Docker just win?
I can see it from their perspective of, does that much easier, like if it's packaged in Docker, is it now pretty easy for them to make sure it works in their environment versus having to put together plugins with their own custom jail format, that kind of thing?
To me, it seems to represent like sort of the industry, even the people on the BSD side of the fence coming to a recognition that, well, if you want to be able to distribute software that runs across multiple platforms, Docker's just the container technology we're going to use. And it's not so much that they're like betting on Docker so much as they want to make all of the stuff that's already in a container available to FreeNAS. So they, instead of
That's
having
where the reach is.
Yeah, instead of having to have a plugin author who creates something specifically for FreeNAS, now just Joe FreeNAS user can pull down a Docker container.
Do we know yet how they're doing it? Is it using...
It's probably still using jails.
That's what I would assume.
It's just that the Docker format gives you this like universal format to package the thing up with and then ship.
I wonder.
And universal controls that just work.
I wonder, because the way they say, listen to the way they put this. Support for Docker containers, its own built-in hypervisor that supports virtualization with full ZFS integration. So to me, it sounds like they're using a hypervisor to run the containers.
They run like a Linux kernel and Beehive.
You think they're able to run Linux Docker images? Is where they're going with this?
They are Linux Docker. No, they are Linux Docker because they're making it available for you to pull down pre-created Docker containers.
Then it's probably Beehive with Linux running on top of it.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
that to me is a huge statement.
Yeah,
don't you think?
That's pretty cool.
That's sort of like when Microsoft started shipping Docker support and Bash on Windows. It's just sort of like this, Linux is the runtime. Linux is the runtime, and however you get that runtime on your machine.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And the container technology is how you get the runtime right now, but it's really, but half of those containers are running Ubuntu, right? So it's really Linux is the platform.
Yeah.
And in a lot of those cases, it's Ubuntu.
70%.
There you go.
There you go.
So I think they came up with a way to run Ubuntu on FreeNAS.
We'll have to look more into this. I'm very curious about it because I wonder if it'll create any pressure for their compat layer to implement those primitives,
My
emulate
understanding
those.
is they're just using Beehive with a Linux kernel, right?
Yeah.
It would be better though if they didn't have to run a whole hypervisor.
Because if you could
nice,
support
I agree.
like OCI or other types of things, then suddenly you could have like, hey, I want to run FreeBSD as my base platform for
But
Kubernetes
to get
or whatever.
it working most reliably, using the hypervisor route is probably the best way to go.
Totally.
At least to start. And maybe down the road, they allow you to pick whether it's using the ABI or using a hypervisor.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Microsoft is doing. Oh, and at 2:30, the file system upgrade just finished on the phone.
Ooh.
So it went from 2:06.
New hot news?
Yeah. So there you go. The file system in real time is completed. Oh, geez. Now I got to sign in. What is this crap? Just for 1 point release?
So does this mean if Ubuntu is running on FreeNAS, does that mean we can get snaps running as well?
Well, if you could run Docker containers on there, couldn't you just run essentially like a small Ubuntu system and SSH into it?
You could.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could, and you could make snaps on it as well if you wanted to.
Fascinating. That is interesting. I really want to see what the web UI. I've looked at the early betas. I don't know if there's limitations.
They have like Beehive support in this new UI,
Yeah.
right? So it would make sense that they might use.
Yeah, they have a
It's
section
just
called
another built-in VM.
They have a section called VMs. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It just should. That's what I would think. It's just another built-in VM. So it's something I think I'm going to play around with. Now that I can get Linux on my FreeNAS, this is a game changer for me.
Yeah.
But it's a big controversial feature in the FreeNAS community right now.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. I thought that was. Oh, and by the way, if you are going to upgrade, let me see. I have somewhere in this mess of show notes. Here we go. I have a migrating from FreeNAS 9 to FreeNAS Coral entry on the FreeNAS wiki.
Nice.
That covers all of it and like issues you have. Especially if you're using encryption, maybe just give this a read. It doesn't sound like it's going to be too complicated, but probably stuff you should be aware of. So check that out. We'll have all of that.
Go try the new version. I'd love to hear what people think about it.
Do you have a file server at home?
Not anything pre-built like this.
I
have a box that has a container that runs my router, and then it has a container that serves my files. And
if you just built a big desktop PC, you could put a bunch of disks in it.
I sure could.
You could just use that. It's like a double duty. All right, we're going to talk about your new machine. We're going to go spend your money here. We're going to go spend your money here just about now, actually. So I think it's just about time. Let's do that. Let's mention Linux Academy. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Then we're going to go, oh man, Wes. See, my favorite thing to do is to spend other people's money. And we're going to get you set up.
It's much more fun.
We're going to get you hooked up. We're going to get you hooked up with a good machine. And then when you're ready to put that machine to use and you want to do more, I want you to go to Linux Academy and learn more. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. You land there to support the show and sign up for a free 7-day trial. It's a platform to learn more about Linux with self-paced, in-depth video courses, hands-on, real-world scenarios that help shake off that test anxiety because you've got actual expertise. I love it. They spin up the lab server when you need it. You SSH into that shenanigans. You get a real environment, 7+ Linux distros you choose from, the servers and the courseware all snap. See what I did there? To that distro. All snap to that distro. You can also take practice exams to prepare for a cert test. You can get note cards that have been forked by the community and improved. You get nuggets, which are just tiny bits of wisdom. You just do a little deep dive into a singular topic for 5 minutes or an hour, depending on the subject, which is great when you've got a busy week. Speaking of busy weeks, they have course schedulers to work with you to help match content to your busy schedule. A community stacked full of Jupiter Broadcasting members, downloadable tools like guides and lesson audio that you can take with you, iOS and Android apps to study on the go. Damn, the list just keeps getting longer and longer, and they're always adding more courseware. You can just look at their Twitter feed to see that. It's so awesome that something like this where you sign up once and then they just keep working their butts off to get you more and more stuff. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. And a big thanks to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Unplugged program. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. So if we're not going to do the Raspberry Pi with a keyboard for you, Wes, it sounds like you are... Well, can you tell people what you got right now? Give people a base so they know what you're coming from.
Right now, I've got a Core i5... What is it, second generation? Third? What generation is this one?
I think
first?
That might be first.
Might be first, yeah. first gen XPS.
Yeah. I think that was the first gen i5.
Yeah.
13-inch screen?
13-inch screen.
And what's the resolution of the screen?
13 whatever.
No.
Yep. So that's the icing on this horrible cake.
Oh my goodness.
Which at home I have external monitors, so it's not that big of a deal. But
and how does the monitor hook up? DisplayPort?
Yeah.
Okay.
DisplayPort.
All right, so that'll probably still be the same.
Yeah, so that's fine. I got
SSD.
SSD, yeah.
And 4 gigs, 8 gigs?
4 gigs of RAM.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. Wow. Yeah, we really got to talk. So, 13-inch. Now, what do you like most about that form factor?
I mean, it is very convenient. It's not a heavy machine. It's easy to throw in a bag. I think I could do up to a 15-inch, as long as it wasn't, crazy. I would like to, be able to easily take it to a coffee shop or a bar to do some work.
Okay. All right. Well, see, I was going to recommend something a little bigger. I was going to recommend. Have you seen this Acer here with the 20-inch curved screen?
Wow.
Yeah. It's got
Only
a fan
weighs
on the
18 pounds.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Okay, maybe not.
It looks like it has a nice keyboard though. Is that like a real keyboard? Look
Yeah,
at
man.
that.
Yeah, that's legit right there.
Not the numpad.
No,
but
it's
the rest
it's
of it.
like a mechanical keyboard.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the numpad actually comes out and can be a trackpad.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it flips over.
Yeah, there
That's
you go.
nuts.
Yeah, isn't that sweet? So not that. That's too big.
Yeah.
So what do you like least about the form factor? Did you feel constrained on the screen? I mean, you must.
Yes. Oh yes. So it's not it's not that bad. Like I honestly spend a lot of the time I have a chat program or two, but once at a time, a terminal and a web browser. So it's not that bad. But when I'm away from home and I'm trying to do some development, which I need, like a couple terminals and a web browser, then suddenly I'm alt tabbing all over the place. It gets dicey.
Okay, so not just because they're friends of the show, but it seems like something like the Galago Pro would be a pretty strong contender for you. What you have to decide here is, do you want to go bigger than 13-inch screen or not? Because I think that's the classifier.
Right.
And it sounds like you're leaning 15-inch.
I mean, the 13-inch I like, 13, 14 even. I think I would be okay with a 15-inch. That's where it kind of forks the discussion maybe a little bit as well. Do I also want to consider building a new desktop rig?
Right. Okay.
Because I haven't built a desktop
new laptop
rig.
and a desktop, or
in
maybe
not
place of the laptop.
I guess there's both options. I would still like a new laptop, but if I have a nice desktop at home, that means I could have a different.
Yeah.
I would probably want a 13-inch. Or are there these options with Thunderbolt eGPUs that I might want a beefier laptop?
So here's what I think. So I think we should do this. I think we should do this since people at home are probably thinking some of the same stuff. I think we should break the desktop into a separate conversation, because I think we can quickly get there, because I think that might be the way to go. Although there are some super nice laptops, like is it called Kratos? Is that how you pronounce it, Wimpy? The Kratos?
Yes, it's the Entroware Kratos.
That looks like a nice rig.
If you're on this side of the Atlantic, so in Europe, they've just released their new updated version of that, which is an i7, and it goes up to 32 gigs of RAM, and it's got an NVIDIA 1050 in it, GTX 1050.
Nice.
I think
15-inch display.
That matters, I think. 15 inches.
Kind of tasty.
I think, Wes, you really deserve dedicated graphics, if you can. There's another route you could consider. This is something I know you've been looking at. That's why I bring this up. So, audience, behind the scenes, Wes has been reading up a little bit about using, say, like a Thunderbolt cable to hook up an external GPU. You could also go this route. So, if we keep this in mind, this also opens up your possibilities. I just don't know how well this kind of thing works with Linux.
Right.
I'd love to know if anybody in the audience or in the Mumble Room has any information about external Thunderbolt GPUs with Linux.
It looks like WW's got something.
You do, WW?
I got something on the Windows side. Okay, so I've only seen one person on YouTube actually test what Thunderbolting an external video card, what the performance is actually like. And from that one series of like 2 videos, it's a 30 to 40% decrease from desktop performance for a 4 to 12% gain, and that is if you're using a monitor hooked up to the external eGPU unit. So, I mean, that's on Windows. Your performance can vary wildly. Vary on Linux.
Do you happen to know what connection interface they're using? If it was Thunderbolt 2 or 3, because that makes a big difference.
I think it was Thunderbolt 3.
Whoa!
I'd have to
I think
double
most of the gear is Thunderbolt 3 driven.
Yeah.
Thunderbolt 3 though is 40 gigabits.
It is. What's cool is if you get a laptop that has the Thunderbolt 3, but it also has the reverse feed DisplayPort, so the graphics card can feed a DisplayPort back in and power the screen on the laptop.
Yeah.
Because like the Apple, I want to say just the MacBook or the MacBook Pro can do that. And I know there are other laptops, I think like the Razer Blade and stuff can do that, where you can plug in the external GPU and still use the laptop monitor with the external GPU feeding it instead.
A lot of people in the chat room have been suggesting Razer Blade. Have you looked at Razer?
I have not. I mean, I'm
The Razer
vaguely
Blade's pretty
aware,
cool
but
for the price.
Aren't they horrible with
And the
Linux though?
form factor.
Are they?
I think so.
Yeah. See, this is the thing, Wes. Is I would encourage you to really get your head around what screen size you want, and really draw the line somewhere. For me personally, over the years, having right next to me, I have my Librem right now, and I have the Apollo, and one is a 13-inch and one is a 15-inch, and if I want something that I take on the couch, I like the 13-inch. If I want something that I'm going to work from, I like the 15-inch. Yeah. It's just so it's really what you're going to use it for. What are you going to? Is it more of a work machine or is it more of a browse the web, have fun machine?
Honestly, probably more of a work machine. I mean, I will use it in a casual capacity.
But portability, do you take it with you to work?
Not to work, but I like to work out of the house a lot of my own personal projects, show work, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's where this really fails.
How much time do you spend looking at the screen when you're doing that sort of stuff?
What do you mean?
When you're working on your own stuff and you want to use it, for working on your own projects, how much time might you be spending at the computer in those moments?
I would say anywhere from 2 to 6 hours.
Whoa.
Depending.
Okay.
Jeez, I can't believe you've put up with that resolution for this long. I would not, man. That's got to be rough.
Well, that's how I find myself here today.
Good for you, Wes. I'm really proud of you for taking...
So I've essentially got the same machine. I've got a 13-inch and a 15-inch variant. So it's the 13-inch XPS and the 15-inch XPS. And the 13-inch XPS is what I take out when I'm going traveling. That's the device I take because it's small, it's powerful, it's no compromise. But for extended periods working on that machine, it's not so great because 13-inch screen, you do find yourself, you can't quite get close enough to it. Now that's probably compounded by the fact that that's a high DPI screen.
That's right.
So I've actually been thinking about potentially selling that XPS 13 and getting the version with the 1080p screen because I think that would be better to work on for longer periods.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
And I'm not I don't need a touchscreen. They're nice. I would maybe occasionally use it, but not a deal breaker at all.
Rikai says it looks like Razer is working the Razer Core, which is their external eGPU with a 970 in it, hooked up to an XPS 13 running on Arch. Looks like it's working to power an external monitor.
Ooh.
That's it. The XPS,
Interesting.
I really like.
Can you post links for that somewhere, please?
He put it in the chat room. I really like the XPS 13, but if it was my only computer, I would probably opt for the 15.
Yeah.
And Wimpy, what was the battle like to put? Because this thing only ships with Windows. So what was the process like to put Linux on? Is it just a format, nuke pave, install Linux, or is there did you replace Wi-Fi and whatnot?
So I got my machines both from a Dell reseller, and they were able to sell the XPS 15 with a configuration that had the same Wi-Fi chip in it as the XPS 13 Developer Edition. So I didn't have to do any monkeying around. It obviously arrived with Windows 10 on it, which was actually quite helpful because around the time I got mine, sort of September last year, they were just working out the last of the firmware bugs in the BIOS, and
so you needed to flash anyway.
So yeah, I needed to do the updates anyway. So it was quite handy to have that do the updates, and then it's just been running Ubuntu ever since.
Yeah, I wonder if even now, if the latest model even would have, if you'd have to replace the Wi-Fi. That may not be an issue anymore.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable doing that.
It'd make me happier if it had a 10 series card. It has a GTX 960. It's not a hard swap. I've done it. You just take the bottom off, and it's right there. It's not a hard swap at all. And you can just get a replacement card on Amazon for like $35, $60. But that seems like a decent way to go. All right, so that is so if you go in the 15-inch range, that there's some nice machines there. But you said something that I think is probably the more exciting thing to consider because it's something I've gone through myself is what if I do something like an Ultrabook or even, this is crazy, but even like a Chromebook, and then I get myself like a 6-core or more i7 machine, 32 gigs of RAM, lots of storage, and you just go all out. And plus, it's kind of fun if you haven't done it for a while to build a PC. Like, when's the last time you built a PC?
Oh, I don't
Ages?
know. Yeah, ages.
Yeah.
Ages, like 7 years or something.
So have you been on laptops for years now? Okay, so we got to talk about this because I did this
I mean,
transition
I have the
myself.
occasional, there's like a gaming rig kind of thing, but it's not like new. It has a nice graphics card, but older processor, so
Yeah,
it
and
really would be
it's
a
not
chance
where you're
to-
working.
It's not where I'm working now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I recently made this transition myself, where I was on all laptops for years, even the machines here at the table.
Right.
Which,
Oh, yeah.
Looking back at it, seems ludicrous.
Kind of crazy, yeah.
Ludicrous. It seems ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. And now, because now it blows my mind. Yeah. So let's.
Ludicrous. That could be your new handle, by the way.
Chris Ludicrous?
Yeah. Something like that.
I wonder, that's not bad. That's not bad. You know what else is ludicrous? Ting. Go to linux.ting.com. You'll save $25 off your first device and support the show. If you already have a GSM or CDMA device that works, check their BYOD page. You get $25 in service credit. That's nice because it's $6 for the line. And then just your usage on top of that for minutes, messages, megabytes. I was having a Telegram conversation today with, I think it might have been Corey. I can't remember, on Telegram. He said, Chris says, my mom does not want data on her phone. And he says, can I use Ting anyways? I said, actually, Ting would be perfect because you can just go in and completely turn data off. I guess his mom had a bad experience with data. I don't know how that happens, and not Brent Spiner data, but
that one time you get that extra bill, you're just ooh.
That's it. I just want phone calls. And so he goes in there, can turn it right off. Boom.
That's the thing. Ting makes it so easy. And if you do want it, it's super easy to set hey, let me know when I've crossed this boundary.
Yeah, or if you just want to turn it back on.
Yeah,
just go check a box. They got apps for the phone to manage all of it. They've also got a great website and customer service that really sets the bar. You get to talk to real human beings. So all of that combined with the fact that they're a really cool company with geeks that work there. They're really into this stuff, and they follow stuff on their blog all the time. They've got the Moto G5 Plus available now for pre-order. That could be kind of quick. That could be kind of a cool device. It's got a 2 gigahertz octa-core processor, 4 gigabytes of RAM. It's like around what? I think it's like $300 for a nice Moto smartphone with 4 gigs of RAM. Damn, I think that's as much as the iPhone's got.
That's as much as my laptop.
Oh my god, dude! Oh, it's horrible. Oh, that's so horrible. Oh my god, we gotta talk, Wes. We gotta talk. All right, thank you to Ting for sponsoring the show. Linux.ting.com. Oh, Wes, I tell you, when I made that transition from, these are nice laptops, right?
Yeah.
Bonobos, XBSs,
You haven't been
Librem.
hurting for laptops, no.
No, they're good.
Yep.
i5, i7 processors, SSDs. This is why I thought, and like the Bonobos, for a while, they were dedicated GTX graphics cards. What could in my mind, I understand that some of these things are clocked slightly slower and they run slightly slower for heat.
Right.
But not necessarily in the Bonobo. I couldn't really conceptualize that there would be a noticeable difference in my day-to-day usage. Couldn't really. Even in my main workstation upstairs, I was using a laptop, and I was just doing unfilter editing, show editing,
Regular
show prep,
things, yeah.
trying reviews. And then when it came time, I guess it was last year. Was it last year or the year before we built new rigs for Linux
Last year, I
Fest?
think, yeah.
And one of the things I can, if it's possible, whenever I can, I'll buy 2 of everything so that way we have a backup because we're live, right? I want to have a production machine and a backup machine. And so I bought, you know what? If we're gonna build these anyways, I'll buy a third one because I'm using Bitcoin, right? It's not like I'm using actual cash here. It's not real money, so it's like I'll just get a third one. Yeah, looking back on it.
Hasn't been money for ages.
Anyway, so we build a third one, slightly nicer configuration because it's my personal workstation, and put it in, and I sit down to start working on it. And now looking back at it, it's a totally different computing experience.
Wow.
There is it's something about the amount of sheer work I can have this one system doing, because not only am I doing things like video encoding and editing and transferring large files around the network all at once, I've also got YouTube streams, Telegram, Slack, all this regular desktop, my email, my web browser, I've got all this regular desktop stuff going too. And then in the back end, I've got Usenet, I've got indexers, I've got downloaders, extractors, I've got Sonar monitoring feeds, I've got all this other server stuff that this thing's doing that in the past would have been on its own dedicated machine. Right. And it's doing that all of it while I'm doing all this other stuff, and it never misses a beat. And it's just the sheer amount of productivity I get out of one machine. for my main computer, I will never, ever, well, I shouldn't say that. I cannot for the foreseeable future. Yeah, I cannot see me going back to a laptop for my main work system.
That's a pretty strong opinion.
Plus, it takes the pressure off the laptop pick.
Right.
Which is so hard to get just right.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect anymore. It just has to you know, fill that niche.
So that's, I don't know, anybody in the mumble room have an opposite or similar experience? Like, you know, you switch over to a desktop and it's just a totally different amount of work you get done. For me personally, especially working with video and stuff, I love the fact that I can start an encode job. I'm just going to run for 15 minutes. I switch over to another desktop, and it's like...
You just don't even worry about it.
Not at all.
Wow.
So, as someone who's building a lot of software, it's invaluable to have like a dual E5 machine sitting in a closet somewhere, sort of SSHing in from my laptop to be able to build software on 32 threads.
Yeah,
so that makes
put
sense.
In a
laptop.
My build
so I just
machine...
SSH into everything.
My build machine is my Entroware Athena. Which is an absolute monster. So that's a laptop, and it's my gaming laptop. But when it's not being used for gaming, which is infrequently, it sits on the desk behind me during the day, and that's the machine that I do all of my builds and what have you on.
See, that would be nice because
that's a big machine.
Like the one nice I use to be able to get like a nice Ultrabook with a huge battery, say like an X270 from Lenovo, and be able to go 13 hours without plugging in. And you're just SSHing into your powerful box.
Yeah.
So you can get a lot of work done, but still go forever on battery.
It would be nice as well to have that kind of home base because I don't find this laptop, especially like when I format it for the show or distro reviews or whatever, like it's just not that consistent. So it ends up that I have to promote some like cloud server or droplet or other thing to be my kind of like, that's where I do Ansible runs from. That's where my main backups from my sync thing are taken, or whatever.
That might not be a bad strategy.
But it would be nice for some things to have like kind of a home base that I could.
That's like me. It's like I just end up. There's some things that just want to run on my local machine.
Yeah.
I agree. I think you should give the idea serious consideration because if you've made it this long on this machine, a fairly modest laptop would be a pretty big spec bump. So you could do a modest laptop bump and really invest in the desktop. You know, it's not all fun though. You know, we got a stack of dead motherboards right there. There is it's not. I don't feel like it's quite as good as it used to be. I feel like I get a lot more dead on arrival parts when I custom build now than we used to. But you know, I guess it doesn't seem like it's as big of an industry.
Fine to me.
Yeah.
So Wes, how important is battery life to you?
I don't need like crazy battery life. I would like, you know, like 5+. If more would be nice, but I am usually in a position where I could find power or know of, you know, like my favorite establishments to work have pretty readable power outlets, that sort of thing.
Right. So the reason I asked the question is when I got my Entroware Apollo, I suddenly walked into a new era of battery endurance that I'd not experienced before. And I got used to having like 7 hours plus battery life, and that was pretty great. When I got the XPS 13, I was looking for touchscreens and high DPI because I wanted to play with all the new toys.
Right.
And I'm somewhat jaded because the trade-off there that you make is battery endurance because those high DPI screens and the touchscreen sip up more power.
Yep.
Yeah, so I will get comfortably 4.5 hours on the XPS 13. Maybe 5 at a push, but nothing more than that. And that's another reason why I've been considering for the XPS 13, perhaps the 1080p model, which doesn't have the touchscreen, has a lower res screen, and the battery life is almost double.
Yeah,
I think I could do that.
That's my observation as well. Also, there's more Linux software that works better at regular DPI. You can definitely make it work, especially if you're working with Qt 5 apps or GTK3 apps. You're gonna have a fine experience, but almost all of them will screw it up out of the box. So you're gonna have to make some tweaks. But and I still am making small refinements to my Plasma desktop on the XPS 13. I would also agree if you don't need it. I personally think I don't know of any laptops that have the screen resolution, but 2K is perfect.
2K seems nice, yeah.
Perfect, dude. No, it's perfect. It's perfect. I really wish we had more 2K screens on laptops.
The other thing to consider is on the high DPI laptops, most of the 13-inch laptops, when you've pixel doubled them, are like the equivalent of 1600 by 900 in terms of, usable, equivalent resolution.
Yeah.
So you actually have more screen space on a 1080p.
Wouldn't be now.
So it's I'm just mentioning these things because these are things that I hadn't considered going into my purchasing decision that I'm now aware of having made it.
I mean, I wanted to. In fact, I still want a machine I can try out high DPI stuff on for review purposes.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But if you're not doing that, I don't know. It depends.
I mean, like most of my time is in the terminal. Maybe some like photo editing, but if I had a desktop, I could do that there too.
Yeah, dude. You could also get a 2K screen for a reasonable price on the desktop.
Exactly.
So I have
the new X1 Carbon's a 2K screen, 14.
Is it?
In case you're curious,
Slick.
it is an Ultrabook form.
What now? I might have to sell something.
I know.
It's like the Infinity display, right? It's got the thin bezels.
Yeah,
and
we were
everything
just
on
talking
new
about
one.
in the pre-show. That
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
take a look at it.
X1 is
Type-C
X1
charging,
Carbon.
too. Type-C charging on the new one too.
Oh, I love that.
I'm
that
all
would
in
be
on that.
that would be awesome.
That
Which is
would
a killer feature of the XPS 13 and this is
that would,
Type-C charging.
Do they take Bitcoin? Seriously, because that.
I have to ask Noah because he got the X270. I'm curious if that also Type-C charges off of the Type-C port on it.
Because I'm so done with
charger
Type-C.
Me too. I was just having a conversation last night with Noah about how I just want everybody to go all in on USB-C. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
That's why when I saw the Galago Ultra Pro with the new one, they didn't have Type-C. I was like, you guys, you better fix this before you ship this.
I would really love to see them have USB-C on that. Maybe the next Rev can do it. I'm not sure why they can't do it now, but it is time. It's time for cameras. It's time for everything. I want to charge my remotes with USB-C, my phone with USB-C, my camera, my laptop.
The thing that did it for me was I bought one of those battery packs, but it had one that you could use to jumpstart a car on it, and it was chargeable, and it used USB-C. So I was like, so in theory, if I had my phone, I could charge this battery from my phone and then start my car.
Maybe, yeah. Wow. Drain your phone, though.
Yeah, drain my phone, but whatever. Then I can go drive somewhere. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, somebody at Chris Ellie asked me, a Lenovo reseller that sells the X1 Carbon with and accepts Bitcoin. Okay, all right. So there's that. Now, Wimpy, though, you were teasing earlier that you got new hardware. You got a new device.
Yes, I have. I can't tell you much about it other than what it is, but I have bought an old computer. I have bought an IBM X200, but this X200 has Libre boot. It's an FSF approved laptop.
Now, this is a brand new purchase. So you got this old device.
It arrived today, and other than getting it out of the box and the bubble wrap and turning it on, I haven't done anything with it.
Well,
so
isn't that just perfect? Because Todd's here, and I just recently saw news from Purism about work on Libre boot. Todd, can you bring us up to speed? What's going on over with Libre boot?
Yeah. So. Well, Libre boot, of course, is just the port from core boot that removes the binary blobs.
Right.
Right. So
which I guess can you back up and explain more binary blobs of what?
So anything that's built pre 2008, you can actually have a core boot running without any binary blobs, which are of course mystery code that runs at the BIOS level. And obviously this is getting more and more attention, especially with Vault 7 releases, where about 90% of those security-based exploits were EFI or UEFI exploits. So, and then obviously, so one of the biggest ones and the biggest worry is called the Intel Management Engine. Mm-hmm. Then there's also something else called Intel AMT that actually allows for remote access of your machine when it's even powered off. So those are a couple of things that are binaries at the lowest level. And the way that I like to describe that is basically from a security standpoint, it's kind of how deep do you go? And so some people, they'll just like install a, ad blocker, and they think that they're, happy as it can be. And then, then you can go deeper down to the operating system where you have binaries that power your wireless card or your graphics, etc. And then you can go deeper than that, which of course gets you to the bootloader. And then the lowest level is the firmware on the machine, which of course is the BIOS or EFI, or in our case, it's core boot. So we actually just ported core boot for the Purism Librem laptops. And then we have also what's called neutralized the management engine, which means we've removed the network stack, removed the kernel. So we have a very small bit of code to reverse engineer, or actually just get to the point where we can disable the management engine. And at that point, we'd actually qualify for Respects Your Freedom certification on a brand new i7 6th gen CPUs.
Damn. Ooh. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Just disable the damn thing. Just turn it off. I don't.
Right. That's exactly what's funny about it is that I mean, it's one of those things that initially I don't think there was like really a nefarious reason why the management engine was initially started. It was part of this sort of business push to make it where sysadmins can remotely control a device at a lower level than the operating system to reinstall or repair, etc. And then it turned into this, wow, this can actually be this black box that does a tremendous amount. So it actually now has its own separate core. It's an ARC core. But the thing at the end of the day is that it can be completely removed, right? So we've actually proven it can be completely removed and the machine can operate, but it happens to operate for 30 minutes because there's a little watchdog timer that disables the CPU, or actually powers it off. So now we have 93% removed. The last 7% is this watchdog timer.
So okay, so you're telling me, just to pause there. So in the process of trying to figure out how this damn thing works and how to disable it or just bypass it altogether, you're getting down the path. Oh my God, I think we got this working. High fives all around, everybody. We did it. And then 30 minutes into it, it shuts the system down. And it's like, then you discover there's a timer in there. That's
exactly right. So there is a separate watchdog timer that basically, when the machine first powers on, there's a signature check against one of the partitions within the management engines. You can think of it like a zip file of partitions. But the signature check is only on the very first file or partition of the management engine. So the networking stack and the kernel are in other partitions. So we can actually zero out all the partitions except the one that has the signature check. And then if the signature check fails, then this watchdog timer triggers for 30 minutes. But because we manufacture the motherboard, we actually have fusing capabilities that get us a little bit deeper than what would otherwise be there. So we can actually start to really debug and say we can put the CPU in a debug mode or the management engine in a disable mode. So we're starting to test those features out. And obviously the end goal for us is we want to have a device that can operate with completely free software throughout the entire stack, from the very first firmware loaded all the way through all the operating system and all the applications that run.
Todd, my capitalist sense would tell me that there would be some other market leader that would seem to want to jump to the call of organizations that want to have more secure laptops, especially in a post-Snowden era. It seems like there could be even entire governments that would want computers that are rid of a management engine that's controlled by a U.S. corporation. Why, in your estimation, is this something that's not being... Why is Lenovo not leading this charge?
It's just such a great question, and I don't happen to know the answer because obviously we're focusing on that. The area that I think the only way I can really sort of answer that is that for us, we need to have the entire stack, and it's really a game of depth. So if your operating system, if you're going to be running Windows 10, well then you're exploited at the operating system level. So it's right. So it's for us, we look at it as the game of security is a game of depth, and so we want to have all of our applications running free software, the entire operating system itself, the kernel not running any binaries for wireless or for GPU, and then of course the bootloader being freed, and then the firmware at the lowest level being freed. So, and obviously the more these documents get leaked, it just really
underscores the reason. Yeah,
I
agree.
Our model.
But it seems to me, Todd, like it's such a Herculean effort to actually do this that by the time you get to completely done, there's the real honest potential that the market could shift out from underneath you, and like AMD's PSP system, the system that a lot of people are talking about now that Ryzen's getting more attention, could all of a sudden start showing up in a lot of laptops, and now the market demand might start leaning that direction right as we finally get this problem checked off. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it feels like as long as we're fighting this uphill battle, we might never really be on time with the market demand. Or do you think it's possible?
So I absolutely think it's possible, and of course with AMD right now, it's a lot of potential, but we're not at the point where even if they were to say tomorrow, well, let's go ahead and release this, you're talking about 2018 by the time they actually have something that's into a product.
Yeah.
And I also feel like right now it's a lot more talk than it is actual product, and the reason is because now's a time where they can talk about it and have the theories start spewing around. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a business decision, and and where in their triage list is it going to be to release the source code for the Giza binary, right? It's going to be way down their triage list. But we're pushing for AMD to release it, and as well as pushing with Intel to say we want an emulous design. The cryptographic bond and the goal for a lot of these corporations to really lock up a lot that you can start to see, especially with the CIA Vault 7 release, that it's clear that at least the CIA, as well as the tools that they were using, that they have the philosophy, right? If you were to ask me, hey, I want to hack all the encrypted communication services on Android phones, how should I do that? I would say go a level lower than the application.
Right.
Target the operating system, and you own everything above it.
Or the baseband in some cases.
Yeah, so the same way goes for management engine, or obviously phones, which with the baseband, which we're working on. We actually have all of our hardware specification ready for manufacturing a phone that'll come out in 2018. So these are all things that we're really concerned about. But to answer your question about where's the market demand and is it going to shift from underneath us, I think where everything's trending right now is that digital rights for users are getting stripped. Privacy is getting worse, and those who want to have access to your data or your devices is growing in number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a market. I think it's a market that's going to just get, and more and more leaks are just going to keep coming out. Joe, you had a question about working with Intel. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Todd, when you originally launched your crowdfunding campaign and everything, you were very positive and very optimistic about working with Intel and trying to get the various binaries freed. Presumably, you've come up against quite a lot of walls with Intel. I just wanted to ask, is your optimism still there? I mean, you've talked about what you want to happen, but I mean, what you realistically think can happen. I mean, that's really what I'm getting at here.
Sure, no, that's a great question. So one of the great things about buying product from Intel is that we're cutting checks to Intel, and so therefore we have account managers, and we have therefore dollar leverage. Now our dollar leverage is obviously a whole lot smaller than Google, but as we grow, then our dollar leverage starts to increase, where we can start making demands to Intel, and they'll start to actually listen. So we have submitted, a petition. We've talked with Intel about, creating an emulous design. They came up with the name from us discussing it. That there wasn't anybody talking with Intel about having an emulous design. So as an example, Google, once they had Core Boot running, then they were perfectly fine with using the MRC bin that they used from Intel's FSP binary. So Google at that point was content with Core Boot running, even though they're using that binary. And we're just digging levels deeper. So for us, we're looking at having our solution in parallel. There's actually 3 parallel paths. The first is communicating to Intel our intent and what we want, and then they in turn actually share documentation, BIOS writing documentation, so that we can start to find, maybe there is something actually within the existing documentation that nobody's been able to really exploit. Such an example as the being able to disable the management engine from NVRAM fuses on the CPU. So those are some things that Intel is helping with. Meaning
so
providing documentation.
The fusing tip came from Intel's documentation?
That's correct.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yes. So that's one where by having an account manager and having access to documentation allows us to have more knowledge than, let's say, just someone else just trying to plunk away and hack or reverse engineer, try to figure things out that way. So and their documentation, Intel's documentation, is immense, right? So so we have a lot that we can end up doing that way. That's the first avenue. That's basically working with Intel, saying, hey, you're not the enemy, right? We want to continue to use your hardware. We want to purchase from you, but these are the goals that we want. Then the second option is, that we, by using the documentation, find our own way to, either modify code or disable the ME. One of the nice things here is that it's not actually hostile towards Intel, because we're not trying to reverse engineer and release like a management engine replacement, right? What we're trying to do is just not use it, period. So that's not a hostile relationship with Intel to go down that path. And then the third path, of course, is looking at alternatives, right? Do we end up wanting to use AMD, or do we want to actually scrap it and go to something that's really low powered? So with AMD's talk, that ends up helping us with the leverage where we could possibly switch to AMD, or continue to talk with Intel about switching. So I am very optimistic because I get to read through the documentation on the ME design for BIOS writing guide. It's a 192-page document. So Intel has very deep knowledge and documentation on areas that you'd be really surprised about. So that, to answer your question, is that I'm very optimistic because Intel has been helpful in providing documentation, and the long-term game, it might very well be that they don't put out an ME-less design and we end up finding it something ourselves through their documentation, or maybe in a much later version that they say that there is a market demand for that, and then they offer that up to other manufacturers.
Todd, here's what here's the pessimist in me, because I see it almost feels like two scenarios. Scenario one is a triumphant arrival at some solution that essentially gives people the ability to use Libre Boot to bypass and disable Intel Management Engine, and everybody's happy. Less blobs, everybody's happy. But all of that work will just quickly be snapped up by vendors like System76 and Entraware. And so there won't be a market advantage that lasts very long. So that's scenario one.
Oh, yeah.
Scenario two, though, scenario two would be that Intel just decides to do this, and then everybody gets it, and market advantage is also lost there. So what's the upside for Purism long term here?
Right. So there's a couple pieces. So first of all, you have to be running Core Boot. So if your machine's not ported to Core Boot, then you have to do that port. So it's not like by us disabling the ME.
Okay.
And it's right that you still have to.
That seems though that would be within the range of other OEMs, or especially those that are getting more serious about their own manufacturing. It seems like that could be within their capability.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They would just need to say, I'm going to invest and actually have that ported. So that's step one. But of course, right now there isn't. Everybody's using EFI or UFI except Chromebooks, right? So or pre-2008 machines, right? Libre Boot based machines.
Yeah.
So that is obviously an advantage that we would end up having over others, is that we're investing in that space to have a really depth of credibility on the security side of things.
That's true. Yeah. Right.
So that's point one. So, but yes, if System 76 or even let's say Dell decided, hey, you know what, we don't like all these threats coming in from Vault 7 where all of our machines are gutted because it's an EFI threat, that they could end up putting Core Boot on. At that point, then they would still be using the default installs from Intel. Then they would have to actually go through the fuses that we have, and of course we'll publish what fuses we're targeting because it actually helps users. So then it would basically they would be playing catch up. But the question is, are they going to want to have the same depth of credibility that we have? If they're installing Windows, the depth of credibility is completely pointless.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it seems like I guess your point there is by trudging this journey, you'll establish the Purism brand as sort of being like not only one of the first on the scene with it, but also having expertise with it, which is obviously going to give it some credibility. So I guess that is a good point. But what about if Intel just decides to play ball? Do you feel like that's still a net win for Purism?
I do, and the reason is because then it actually allows the users to control it, which would be that the ME is going to be on by default. That's just how it's going to be. So, a manufacturer or a reseller who has access to being able to fuse a CPU would be able to. So our proposal to Intel is actually to add one of the fuses that we get as a manufacturer, because we get the CPUs in manufacturing mode. So then we have the capabilities to fuse the CPU, and right now we have 14 fuses that we can fuse. And we're saying make a 15th fuse that allows us to actually disable the ME, and you can ship it where they'll be, that it can be fused by default, but it'll have the ME by default, and then we can fuse the CPU during the fabrication process to disable the ME. And then that's all we need. So in that case, then, it accomplishes a few things. The first is that we would then have a CPU that's Intel supported, that would allow us to be able to disable at the lowest level a core that we don't need. The second piece is then it doesn't change that for any of their other buyers,
right?
Because they would get what they had to begin with,
and
right?
they likely would not be all that encouraged or motivated to make a change, like going back to Lenovo or somebody, because they'd already
exactly.
be pushing this if they were.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, wow. Okay, well, I'm glad you guys are working on this because going back to Wimpy. I imagine, Wimpy, your goal here is to have something that's sort of a unique, fully open source stacked machine, right? Are you going to put like Triskel on this thing, or what's your plan, Wimpy?
It was shipped with Triskel 7.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you going to keep it, or is this a Mate test machine? Like, what's going on here, Wimpy? What's your and why? Why this machine?
It's a curiosity.
Okay.
As we said earlier, there's some Bitcoin value at the moment. And there are some unusual items floating around, and this was one of them. And I was interested to have one of these and actually have a poke around with it, and actually retrofitting, the core boot, Libre boot on these devices is non-trivial.
Oh.
So I wanted to have a play and see what it can do and what it's doing. The first thing I've noticed is it boots very fast. That initialization piece is,
I bet,
shockingly quick. So it makes that old machine seem quite pokey by comparison.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've had the same curiosity as you, and so is this. Is the end goal here to experiment with just the process?
Yeah, it's just another interesting bit of technology I'd like to learn more about, and I've had a helping hand in that. I haven't had to wrestle the laptop open and put it under my rather dodgy soldering skills. Somebody else has done that for me.
Is it SSD?
Yeah, so it's been refurbished. So they've fitted it with a Qualcomm Atheros wireless N card and a Samsung 850 256 gig, and it's got 8 gigs of RAM in it as well. So it's like a full.
So not bad.
This actually sounds nicer than Wes's laptop.
Yeah. If you
actually, I bet it's
want
not
a new laptop, Wes, I could.
Yeah, I bet you the performance is not that bad.
It's actually very decent. Yeah, and I've got an X201 which I've had for a while, so I know how to compare the performance, because the 201's a little bit newer.
Right.
And yeah, the thing that surprised me, because it's obviously got the SSD in it, is just how quick the machine comes on and actually starts booting. So it comes up fast, but it's just not having to sit around and wait around for the BIOS and EFI to happen. It's very quick.
But it is still a Core 2 Duo, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've not done much with it. Like I say, I've literally turned it on, been impressed by the boot speed, and done the updates on the box. I've not actually tried to use it for anything serious yet, but I'll get to that.
Huh. I kind of want to check back in if I remember.
Yeah.
I won't be here next week. Oh, I won't be. Yeah, so I'm going to be on the road next week. I think we're gonna. I don't know who's gonna guest. I haven't.
Ooh, we get to find out.
Yeah, so much going on. I haven't. It might just be West. So everybody show up in the Mumble Room. Everybody.
We'll have a lot of fun.
However, I do have this computer set up, so if we do have a guest, they'll be able to call in and they'll be able to talk to Mumble. Mumble will be able to hear them. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We may have a surprise guest host next week, but maybe in a couple weeks I'll check in, Wimpy, and see what you think. I think that's
okay.
I think
well,
that's
I tell
a good
you what.
experiment.
I think we may talk about it on the Ubuntu podcast, so you can have a
Surprise,
listen there.
surprise. Go find Wimpy over there.
Surprise.
And also, Popey's on there, so you can find Popey also, but he's not here today. Yeah, the Ubuntu podcast, one of the podcasts I am subscribed to. You can also Joe is on Linux, late night Linux. I almost call it Linux After Dark again because I keep thinking of the screensaver.
Yeah, right.
Don't do that again, man.
I know. I'm sorry. And that's a great show too. So go subscribe to that as well. It turns out, despite what might be going on with those guys over at Linux Action Show,
Can't trust them. Don't trust those guys.
the Unplugged show is sticking around.
We're here.
So we'll
We're
be
here.
here. I might not be here, but we'll all be
we're
here next week. And,
It's a community. That's what makes us. So
I
powerful.
I thought about trying to join in Mumble, but I was looking at the timing for next week.
Yeah.
And
You'll be driving like a madman.
I think it's going to be like peak driving. I think it's going to be like an 11-hour day for me driving.
Well, Dylan's coming along, right? Just pop him up at the wheel.
Yeah. Well, Hadia offered like, I could drive for a bit. I'm like, yeah, the thing is it's not just driving. It's like then you don't know where you're going to be reception-wise either because you're moving so much. So I just feel like I would be.
We're in the past
being on
now.
a show from a car, man. That would be unbelievable, wouldn't it?
No, never. That would never happen, Joe. That would never happen. That's unheard of. Somebody joins from a car. Never.
Crazy.
Yeah. Chat was like, hey, by the way, Mumble's on Android. So we'll see what happens. But I think something will happen next week. You just have to tune in and find out. We'll keep it fresh.
There will be show.
There will be a show as long as these guys can figure out how to turn on the studio, which I think you've got. I think you got it.
I just stroked the beard, the magic beard, and everything comes on.
When I asked the beard about it, he said, "Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, the show might just be late."
Yeah, that's
what he said.
That's yep, exactly.
I'm like, okay.
He's a realist, that one.
That's fine, I suppose. That really is fine. You tune in over at jblive.tv and you don't have to worry about it. You just get to watch the show go down. And Noah won't be here to bail you guys out either because he's going to be flying to Austin.
Right, yeah.
So we're going to be in Tejas, meeting up with Dell. I wonder if they'll have any XPS 15s in the lab that I can check out. Go find.
I mean, if you see one in the hallway, just snag it for me.
Yeah, man, totally. All right, well, that does bring us to the end of this week's episode of the Unplugged program. Thank you for joining us. You can go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get our live time in your local time of neck of the woods thing, time zone thing. Also, jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact for feedback, linuxactionshow.reddit.com for potential updates and projects. Ooh. Yeah. Join us live in the Mumble Room, too. Get information in our chat room. See you next week. Well, they will. I'm out of here. See you guys. And good luck.
A lesson.
All right, so jbtitles.com. Let's go do our title thing. Now, I know that Nick Lobb, who I almost wanted to call Nick Bob in the show, had a question regarding the Intel Management Engine, probably for Todd. So, Nick, go ahead. I saw you asking. You get first go.
Hey, hello. Thanks for having me.
Hello.
Todd left, actually, just a second ago. So
he did? Oh, was it for him? Okay. Well, thanks, Todd, for joining us. Goodbye, Todd!
We appreciate it.
Maybe it was our sick tunes drove him away. Jail That Whale? What's that in reference to? Oh, the Docker stuff? Yep. That's pretty good, too.
That's pretty good.
Boot Free or Die Trying. That was my suggestion.
Oh, I like it. How rowdy of you.
Who should I have guest co-host next week? Who should I ask? Because obviously I can't make them do it.
Right.
Who should I invite?
Here's an idea, Dan Lantel. Hey, LMAO.
Sweet Louise. I want to take Sweet Louise and put him on my lap. I want to pet him right now.
You could ask Chase just to throw it as a wild card.
I feel like I could ask Joe, but I feel like that's a lot asking. That's a lot of Joe. I mean, that's a lot asking a lot of Joe. But yeah, that would be good. That would be good for people to get to meet Joe. That's a good.
Mix it up. Have Michael on.
I'd have to not be in my car, but I could work something out.
Yeah, we don't want to impose too much on you.
So I have Skype set up here, and Joe could call it. All right, I like this, Joe. Wimpy's going to throw you under the bus, and I'm going to go with it. Joe, if you're down for it, boy, that sure solves my problem right there. And I actually probably is a good chance for the JB audience to get to meet you more.
Yeah, I can talk about how great DigitalOcean is, and honestly, to be honest.
There you go. Yeah,
that helps.
I heard the read in the plug for the affiliate in Late Night Linux, and it's legit.
Yeah, man, I've been using them for years and happy with them.
All right, awesome. Well, that's awesome, Joe. Thank you.
Boom,
all right,
problem
so
solved.
you can just be able to Skype to Jupiter Broadcasting, and Wes, you'll be able to I think I'll set it to automatically log in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Well, that's
Sweet.
awesome. Thank you, guys. Well, that's excellent. And Wimpy, I'm glad you're.
I'm officially Joe's agent now.
Yeah, right.
All financial transactions, I'm taking 20%.
Representing. Whoa, there's Skype. There's Skype. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to log into Skype. I'm going to turn off all of the notifications for you right now, Wes.
I appreciate
I'm going to hook you up with
the
that.
most.
Yeah, I hate those so much. And Wimpy, I owe you a beer or two. That's for sure.
Beer's only redeemable at Linux Fest Northwest.
I'm going to pull my finger out and sort my travel out this weekend.
Attaboy.
I'll be in touch.
Attaboy. Attaboy. Yeah, I'll make sure the beer's worth it. We'll go get some good ones.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
It would come to that, except that they probably won't let me in with my crazy beard. They think I'm some sort of Muslim, man.
Well, the flight might be a challenge. That's true. But once you get to Linux Fest, you'll be amongst common. I mean, there are some incredible beards at Linux Fest. I Look at this. I got to go through and check all the boxes on these.
I want to meet the Incredible Beard.
Oh yeah,
we could make that happen. He might not be at Linux Fest, but we could make that happen. He'd probably be up for that.
He's reclusive. You got to like corner him.
Yeah. Well, or what we could do is we just do a live recording of user error while Wimpy's in studio, and then the beard would be there, and we could make it all happen.
That'd be good. I can bring beer for that.
Pizza somewhere, and then
burgers. Yeah. Also, burgers are a good.
Oh look, there's Todd.
Is a good bait. Well, there's Todd. Oh yeah. Oh, is Nick still here? Oh, hi Todd. Welcome back. We didn't realize you jumped out, but Nick had a question for you, I guess, about Intel.
Yeah. Hey, did you manage to decompress a union point ME yet?
I'm sorry, can you ask that one more time?
Did you manage to decompress a union point ME yet?
The union point? I don't even know what that is.
It's the chipset for the Kaby Lake CPU.
Oh, I'm sorry, the Kaby Lake. We're actually using Skylake right now, and so that's what we're testing on. We do have Kaby Lake machines, or at least the motherboard, coming, but I'm not sure the word you're saying before the management engine. So I can talk you through what it is that we're doing, if that's, or unless you want to ask that question one more time.
Union Point is the name of the chipset.
The Union Point is the name of the chipset for Kaby Lake?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Then I was just not familiar with that term. So what we've done with, so the management engine, of course, is this binary, but we can decompile it. It's the same binary that's used for Skylake and Kaby Lake. So it's the management engine 11.x from Intel. So we haven't tested yet on Kaby Lake, but it will be the same management engine version. So once we have that working, then we're actually going to be able to free Broadwell, Skylake, and Kaby Lake.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah, that's what.
I'm glad you're able to join us too.
Yeah, it was great. James is he's works with us and he's a longtime listener, and he said, hey man, it'd be worth you to jump on. And it's super easy, and actually this time frame for me works great.
Oh, cool.
So,
well, you're welcome to join us.
Yeah, so I explained to him that I always like you guys, so I'll jump on and if you have any questions here or there, I'll chime in, and if not, I'll let you guys do your show.
So we have on the JB titles, everybody go vote. We've got 2 leading candidates right now: Jail That Whale and Boot Free or Die Tryin'. Now, I might be biased because Boot Free or Die Tryin' was submitted by me, but it feels like it's also more applicable overall to what we talked about than Jail. Oh, whoa. The ties are changing right now. Look at that. It's all, the tie break is over. Well, now it's getting close again. Boot Free or Die Tryin' has pulled ahead. It's a real horse race, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real horse race. We have to clear out of here in a couple of minutes because the TechSnap program is about to begin. And this is the last time I'm going to be on air for a while. Holy crap!
We're gonna miss you so much.
I'm going to be off air. Well, that's not totally true. We're going to be live from Dell. If everything goes as planned, we will be live from Dell headquarters April 7th. So that'll be the next time I'm on the air. I think that's the longest time I've ever been off air.
So Chris, I heard that when you go to Texas, like when you're not near the cities, when you're kind of more in the kind of heart of Texas, if you look up, the stars are kind of bright.
What's your point? Where are you going with that, Joe?
Oh, come on.
Well, if you look up, the stars are bright. If you look up, well, that is a true fact.
Heart of Texas. Come on, you must have heard that song.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I thought you were one like, yeah, of course. I thought you were just telling me like a local fact about like the light pollution in Texas. I was like, okay, good to know. Thanks, Joe. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. All right, well, I should get out of Wes's way, but thank you, Mumble Room. You guys were great today, and hopefully you guys will be able to make it for next Tuesday because they'll probably need your help. Although, I'm actually, now that I know Joe's going to be here too, between Joe and Wes, I think they'll do a great job. I think it should still be a really fun show. So, Joe, instead of being on Mumble, you'll be on Skype, so that way it's like a little bit of a different mix.
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay, guys, thank you very much. We're going to run now. We got to go do the TechSnap show, but have a great week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Peace. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, chat room. So you heard all that, so I don't got to repeat myself. I'm not some sort of animal.
You mustn't do it. It's wrong.
So I'm going to switch over the streams here for a hot minute, and we might take an extra 2 minutes just to make sure Wes got it. So give us a couple extra minutes, but you don't have to go nowhere. If you're on the YouTube, it is going to shut down for a bit, but we'll bring up the YouTube again here in a few shakes of a lamb's tail, guys. Is that yeah?